Looking for a seller finance contract for your deals? I mean, you're not the only one. I don't know why it's such a mystery, but yeah, it's all good. I got you covered. You ready for it? Let's go. All right, so by the time we're done, you'll know what paperwork you need for seller financing. And if you hang out until the end, I'll give you my seller finance contract that I and my students use to pull off these seller finance deals. If you're new to the channel, by the way, really glad that you found us. And if you take your real estate investing seriously, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon to get notified when new videos are released, especially if you like creative financing. Because I talk a lot about that here because it's what I know best. It's how I learned to buy real estate. You know, I didn't have much of a choice when I got started because I didn't have enough money or a decent credit score to buy real estate the traditional way. And here I am almost 15 years later with a few bucks in the bank, and the credit score is looking much better now, but I still prefer my creative ways, seller financing specifically. You know, I learned how to do this without money. I don't see any reason to start using it now. And in case you're not knowing, I put a link below in the description to one of the many videos that I've made on seller financing. And this one will get you started with the basics. And almost every time I make one of these videos, I get the question, what contract do you use for seller financing? So we'll answer that question. And it's never what anyone thinks it's going to be. The contract that I use for seller financing, it's the same one that I use for all of my deals. It's just a basic real estate purchase contract. But I'll show you what to do to turn it into a seller financing contract. And then I'll use this slide here as an example. This came from a previous video. Here you've got your basic real estate purchase agreement. And every agreement will have a place for the purchase price and it'll have a place for the terms. Oh, it looks like here I was actually giving a subject to example, but you can see here even with this, that with this subject to strategy, all you've got to do is just write it in the terms section of your contract. You know, the price is $120,000. And then in the terms section, just write subject to existing financing. Buyer to pay seller $15,000 cash at close and $15,000 payable as follows. $175 a month for 12 months from closing date, balance due on the 13th month. So there's that, but that's not really what we're trying to talk about, but just show you how you can do it that way, right? But it's a little more complicated. Let's get rid of this and I'll show you what straight seller financing terms would look like, something a little much more simple. So I'll leave the price as it is, and then buyer to pay $20,000 to seller at closing, seller to carry back the financing on $100,000 at 5% interest amortized over 30 years, balloon payment due in 10 years. And that's it. Your sales contract is now a seller financing contract, but you're not quite done. You do need the promissory note and the mortgage because, I don't know, they say so. And because there's more money to be made in this paperwork. And I'll give you a copy of mine when we're done here. But what most creative real estate investors don't understand is that selling on terms like this, it comes in three parts. There's terms of the sale, terms of the loan, and terms of the documents. Specifically, the terms of the promissory note document. Because when done right, you can really set yourself up nicely. You can set yourself up for the deal after the deal. So what's that? Here, look at this. And you don't have to write this down or anything. I'll go ahead and I'll give you a free copy in a minute. But right here, number 5, write a first refusal to purchase note. And I'll just put a little graphic there up on the screen so you can see a little bit easier. And here's why this is important. Investors like you and I go out and look for motivated sellers, whether that's, absentee owners, we look for vacant properties, probates, stuff like that. You understand how that works. Well, there are other investors out there looking for motivated lenders, like owners who sold their properties with seller financing. And if you happen to negotiate a seller financing term of 12 years or longer, it's an almost 100% certainty that your seller will receive solicitations in the mail. Little yellow letters and postcards like the ones that we send, offering to buy your note from the seller at a discount. And most sellers, at some point, because they're tired of the little monthly payments that you're sending, they will settle with someone else for a lump sum, a discounted lump sum. And if your seller is going to discount your note to someone else, don't you want a piece of that action? You want to have the first right of refusal to buy it yourself. Yes, you buy your own debt at a discount. I mean, it's the same as, if you got a bigger price reduction originally when you made the purchase, it just came a little bit later, that's all. Or you could resell your debt for a profit. Now, let me show you. The seller is carrying back $100,000. Some other investor contacts your seller and negotiates it down to $60,000. And because you had the first right of refusal in your documents, you buy it at $60,000 and then resell it for $75,000. So you put $15,000 in your pocket and now you owe $25,000 less on your note. And now instead of making payments to the original seller, you're making payments to the person that you just sold the note to. We call this the deal after the deal. And if you're doing seller finance deals with 12-year terms or longer, it will play out like this about 70% of the time, as long as you have this right of first refusal clause in your promissory note. Here's another clause right here on this page, number 7, substitution of collateral clause. And what this says in plain English is that you can move the debt from one of your properties to another, as long as there is enough equity to support it. So this is how this came in really handy for me last year. I've got these 3 properties in Montgomery, Alabama. And this one on Fitzpatrick Boulevard is valued around $105,000 with a $75,000 note on it, seller finance note. And the one on Eldington Drive is valued around $140,000 with a $50,000 note on it. And then this one here on Calhoun Road, valued around $165,000 that I own free and clear. Now, Eldington had a balloon payment coming due at the end of the year. And I didn't want to use my cash to pay it off, nor did I want to sell it. So, I could have refinanced it, but instead I have Fitzpatrick, of which I've been thinking about getting rid of for a while. I just haven't been able to keep a decent tenant in there. But if I sold it, it didn't have a bunch of equity, like 30 grand. And so after commissions and closing costs, I might clear 20 grand or so, not enough to pay off the balloon payment on Eldington. So because of my substitution of collateral clause, I moved the $75,000 debt on Fitzpatrick over to Calhoun Road, making Fitzpatrick free and clear, of which freed up the equity for me to sell it now and pay off the balloon payment on Eldington. Then number 9, the subordination clause. There's some really creative uses for that too, but look at number 10. Extension of note. So I fight hard for this in every deal that I do that has a balloon payment. In that last example I showed you, the seller wasn't down for it, or else I would have used it. So let me show you how it works real quick, and then I'll tell you how to get a copy of my note so you can use it in your deals. It works like this. If the term of your loan with the seller is coming up, this clause allows you to extend the term by paying a lump sum toward the principal. So for example, in that last deal where I had the $50,000 balloon payment coming due, if the seller had agreed to this originally, I could have extended the term by 12 or 24 months, whatever we agreed to, and in exchange for, say, $10,000 or a $5,000 lump sum payment, whatever you can negotiate. And I usually get some form of an extension like this in every seller finance note, but I didn't get it in this last one. Can't win them all. So to put together your seller finance deals, you need a standard purchase agreement, and you need a promissory note. And you could hire an attorney to put everything together for you, but it's not necessary. I just give my title officer a copy of the purchase agreement, a copy of my note with some basic instructions, and she does it for me. So if you'd like a copy of this promissory note that I used for these deals, you can grab it for free at epicpromissorynote.com. So what did you notice? What did you learn? Let me know in the comments below. And who else do you know that needs to see this? When their name comes to mind, please share with them. Alrighty, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.